Okay, say you want to have a career in photography, but what a lot of people get wrong is that they don't understand what that actually means. There is over 10 different paths of what it means to become a photographer and to have a photography career. And today I want to go over each and every single one of them to help you understand which path is the right path for you and which skills you need to bring to the table to go down that path successfully. I want to rate the different paths depending on how difficult or how easy it is to get into them. Okay, number one is a BTC photographer. What do I mean by that? This is an entire block of different photography services that you can offer as a business to a consumer, hence B2C. So your clients will be private parties. That could be you are offering wedding photography. You are offering to shoot families, babies, newborns. You are shooting high school seniors. That entire block is offering services to private parties. So what do you need for this career path? You need a strong web presence. So you need a website and you need a strong presence on social media, because social media is where a lot of private people are. Think of yourself. We are spending hours and hours every day on social media. So this is where nowadays people go to look to hire a photographer. You also need to have strong social skills, because you will be most likely working with people who are not usually in front of the camera, and you need to make them comfortable, you need to be social, you need to embrace the situation, and you need to make potential clients feel good about working with you. Let's rate this career path on a scale from 1 being not so hard to get into to 5 being super hard to get into. And I would say the BTC photographer is an entry-level career. It's definitely on ones. Basically, anybody without any connections can start doing it. You already know families, you already probably know people who might be getting married. And if not, your friends might know somebody. So this is a very easy career path to get started on. Okay, let's talk about the second career path. And this is, in contrast to the first one, it is a B2B photographer. So this means you're a business working for businesses. And in this block, you can have different sub-paths. You can be an advertising photographer. So you do like lifestyle shoots, big campaigns. You can be a food photographer. And this is a specific type of photography that is usually in the studio or on location with a client, with a restaurant. So you will be catering to this specific niche. Then there is something related, which is the product photographer. So handbags, shoes, cutlery, cameras, bikes, whatever is a product, you are photographing that, and you're usually photographing that in detail in the studio or sometimes on location. But usually a lot of product photography is happening in the studio. Then within that category, there's interior and architecture photography, which I would say is a specific subgroup of businesses that you can specialize in. And lastly, there is corporate and business portraits. So this is including like employer branding campaigns. It can be related to advertising photography, but advertising photography usually happens through agencies, whereas corporate and business photography can be done with you having contacts to the businesses themselves and going there yourself and photographing that business. So usually for all of this, you will need to bring the following things to the table. You will need to have a competitive portfolio of client work and also personal projects. Especially if you are looking to work with an agency, they love to see that you are able to work for a client, but they also want to see that you have imagination, that you are developing your style, and that you are creating your own personal work, which then they can take and kind of sell these ideas to clients. So it kind of merges together between your personal work and the client work. You will also need either a really strong connection to agencies and relationships to agencies that are booking you, or you will need a solid network of potential customers or of returning customers. As with all of these, we're usually talking about bigger productions. You will also need the skill to be able to handle a small, medium, or a bigger team, because you will not be shooting these jobs alone usually. You will have to handle different types of people on the set. And as this is a competitive area, you will probably also need like your unique selling point. That could be focusing and niching down on one specific thing, say interior and architecture or food photography. And within that, you will need to have your own creative style or your creative language that makes people want to book you for the job as opposed to any other photographer. So rating this area on 1 to 5, I would say this is a 3. It is possible, depending on your skill and your portfolio, to enter this, but it does require a little bit more effort and more work and more experience to be in the B2B sector. The third career path is fashion photography. So this is a very popular, hence very competitive career path. Fashion photography will be used shooting editorials, advertorials, lookbooks for brands, or product shots. So all of these can be within the realm of fashion photography. So what will you need for this? You will need a very good network. You will need to know the right people and be in the right place. So the right people would be art buyers, art directors, people who run magazines, but you will also need a strong network of people that you are wanting to work with. So models, bookers, stylists, hair and makeup people. You will most likely also, maybe not from the very beginning, but down the line, you'll probably need an agency that represents you, as most fashion jobs get booked through agencies. You will have to have a very distinct and unique style, because fashion photography is about fashion, right? So it's about trends and things moving and new things and new seasons and all of these things. So a unique and fresh style will be very important to set you apart, and you need to be on trend. You need to vibe with what's going on right now and also develop and offer new things, new perspective to an oversaturated industry. On a scale from 1 to 5, I would rate this a 5. Fashion photography is probably one of the most competitive and hardest careers to get into, because in the beginning, when you're working on your portfolio, it is required to do a lot of things for free. And usually most people do start out as assistants unless you have some kind of into the industry. I know people who have worked as models before and then became fashion photographers, and that has helped them tremendously because they already know the field, they have the contacts in the field, and they're kind of just switching sides, but they have already established a network of people. If you don't have any of that, and let's say you live somewhere off the beaten track, so you don't live in one of the fashion capitals of the world, it will be a very hard way to go into fashion. Not impossible, but it is a very hard task to do. Okay, path number 4 is photojournalism. So this is when you're working for different media, newspapers, magazines, online newspapers, online magazines, all of that good stuff. So as a photojournalist, you need to be interested in the news and current events, and you will have to have some kind of talent to be at the right place at the right time quickly and take the most interesting photo, or you will need to have the talent of telling a compelling newsworthy story. You will also need to have a network of editors. You can develop that over time, but you will need a network of people when you have shot a story that you can suggest it to them and pitch it to them and send them your images. You will need to know and understand the media landscape. So what kind of publications are publishing which type of stories. So you will need to cater to that and know what story you can send to which publication. You will also need to have the skill for a quick turnaround. So if you're working as a photojournalist, you cannot take ages to do your projects usually, or not if you want to earn money with that. So you need to go out, you need to shoot your story, you need to come back in, quick turnaround of your images and send them off to editors. And the last thing you need in this career is a second stream of income. Because to be honest, photojournalists don't get paid very well these days. So you probably need a second leg of income to support this type of photography career. Okay, number 5 is art photography. And this is the one that we all love, that we all dream of. This is basically creating your own artistic works and selling them as prints, exhibiting them in galleries and shows, art fairs. This is literally probably every photographer's dream, or like a lot of us dream of that. So the number one thing you will need for this is a strong artistic vision. Imagine somebody wants to hang an artwork in their space or in their, in their apartment. What are they looking for? They're looking for something unique, for something interesting. And if you want to be an art photographer, you need to have a vision of creating that special thing that somebody will go out and say, that I want that on my wall. This also in turn means that you will need to have a good understanding of the art market. So what kind of artworks are being created, not only in your field of photography, but in contemporary art in general. You'll also need to understand kind of the artistic landscape that came before you to see where you're fitting in. Are you making something that's new and fresh and interesting? Or are you just kind of recycling and replicating some old ideas that have been done 200 years before? I mean, nothing wrong with that. That can be interesting as well. But if you're doing that intentionally, it's good. If you're doing that because you are ignorant, not that great. In terms of contacts, you will need to have contacts to galleries. And those are the people who will decide whether they want to represent you and show your work in their galleries. Or you will have to have some kind of way to direct market your art, say on the internet, and do it yourself. But then again, you will need to be very savvy and know all about that. You'll probably also need the desire and the skill to participate in photo contests. Photo contests give exposure to art photographers, also to photojournalists, but you will need to play the field in terms of photo contests. And usually exhibitions are expensive, so it would be a very good skill to know a bit about fundraising and how you can generate money to create your art. This has always been the case historically. You need to fundraise as an artist to support your work. In terms of entry level, I would say it's probably around a 4 and a 5. It's not impossible to do as a newcomer, but it does require like all of these skills. So I would say maybe 4.5. Okay, so we're about halfway. I would really appreciate if you would give this video a like if you are having fun and learning something. And please subscribe to my photography channel if you want more videos just like this one. Okay, number 6 is pretty straightforward. And this is not working directly as a photographer, but this is actually working in teaching photography. If you have the knowledge, if you have the skills, you can go on the teacher side of photography in a university, in an art school, in a private school. You can teach online, you can teach through YouTube as I'm doing now. And I would say this is a very valid path to take. In terms of skills, you will need to be able to teach. So teaching should be fun for you. You probably need to enjoy mentoring people and work with people, either indirectly as I do or like directly through mentorships and teaching classes somewhere. So you need to have presentation and social skills for that as well. And obviously you need to be an expert kind of in the field that you are trying to teach. So in terms of entry, I would rate this at a 3 because you need some experience with this. But if you enjoy it and it comes to you naturally, it's not that difficult to get into, especially with all the possibilities of being able to teach online as we have today. Moving on to more photography related careers. And at number 8, I would say you can work as a photo editor or an art buyer. So that is the person who actually curates and finds interesting photography for different media outlets. A lot of photographers who don't want to be working in the field actually take this career path and become photo editors. The skill set you need for that is you need to be able to work in a team, in a media outlet. You would need to be either freelance or you can be employed by a media outlet. You need to know a lot of photographers out there and you need to be able to source from them. You need to establish good relationships with different photographers, know their style, know the style of your publication, and make that work together. I would say this is probably somewhere between a 3 and a 4, because I think you need to know the landscape very well. And also there's not that many positions as a photo editor and an art buyer out there. It's a very small field and a very competitive field. Number 9 is for all the analog freaks out there. And this is to work as a printer. Of course, you can work as a printer in the digital field, but I would say that this is a more interesting path to take, to work as a printer for analog prints. And this is a dying out profession. So I say, if you love printing and you are very good at it, this is a path that you should consider to become a professional printer for other people's work. So for that, you need to enjoy printing, being in the lab, kind of a geek and a perfectionist, working with these analog materials. And yeah, you probably need to have some access to a lab. But of course, you can always kind of rent a spot in a lab for that. And I would say this is probably between a 3 and a 4, maybe a 4 and a 5 in terms of how to get into this. But if that's your jam, go ahead, be a printer. We need you. You are rare and hard to come by. And at number 10, which is another photography related path, is to work as an assistant to another photographer or as a studio manager for a photographer. This is definitely an entry-level path, but where you can learn a lot. The skills that you need is to have the specific skills of an assistant photographer. So you need to know about how to set up different kinds of lightings. You need to know how to tether. You need to know how to bounce. And you just need to be like a good communicator. You need to be a pleasant person to be around. You need to be like kind of like a more quiet and helpful, empathetic personality who can work well with others and in small teams. You have to have good people and social skills. You need to be low maintenance, and you need to be good at following directions by other people. This is definitely on the entry-level side, so I would rate this at number 1. And this is a career path that will be interesting to a lot of people starting out, and actually that can be an entry point to any of the above that I mentioned. All right, these were the 10 different paths for today. I hope you liked this video. If you did, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in my next one. Bye bye.